first thing is about tax incentives and how useful is it as an instrument, right? Okay, so here's what I've sort of been thinking about tax incentives. Tax incentives are useful on the margin of attracting something. Yeah? So the Foxconn example that Professor Favela talked about, they might come here on the margin versus some other place if you have equal tax in some other place, right? But tax incentives have a problem. They deprive a country of fiscal revenue. Okay? And I know that your fiscal revenue is a challenge. Okay? Like all developing countries. I mean, the wonderful thing about not being in government in my own position is I can go to any country, Vietnam today, Sri Lanka tomorrow, somewhere else, and you see the same common patterns of problems that emerge, right? So everybody gives tax incentives, there's tax incentive competition, and the belief is that this is the important factor, but it deprives you of fiscal revenue. That's number one, right? But what really matters, I feel, the more I've tried to study this, is why some countries get FDI and not others, or why some of these other things. I mean, this, I think, is really what should occupy us, right? And you raise some of the pertinent issues there about the 3 shifts, the hours worked, services missing, all terribly important. Okay? And on services, we don't, from what little I understand, and Mads, who worked with me, was from the stats agency, we don't have very good services data, right? On the export side, I mean, we're talking about the stuff that goes out of the country, right? Let alone anything else about services. Now, I would have thought, with the importance of services in your trade basket, there should be a huge amount of resources devoted to just getting the basic data together. And that seems terribly important. So these things, I think, are more important than the incentives, the tax. That, red tape, clearly is some sort of problem. Now, how bad this is it 29 days? Those are irrelevant. The question is, there's a problem. Right? So these things, and even on this there's a data problem, right? They look at firms in your country, they ask you how long, then they compare across countries, they create some kind of index. There are a lot of technical problems here. However, this is a red flag to me, right? Why aren't we here? Okay. We are 10 times worse according to this. However the data problems are, there's a relatively problem, right? Now, the fact that we're better than China is no comfort because it's the Chinese market that matters, and so on. So people will go to China, and think of Volkswagen. They go to China, they let the Chinese take that proprietary technology because they're desperate to get into China, right? And there's a huge debate today whether US tech companies can continue with this. And that's one of the points that America is raising, Chinese unfair competition, by giving access to the proprietary technology. Siemens gave this to China, and the allegation is that Siemens therefore gave them the high-speed rail. The Japanese say the same thing with the Shinkansen technology, right? But people do that because they're desperate to get into China in terms of its market size, right? But if you're a smaller country, 100 million people, you can't do this. Right? So this procedures, productivity, that is terribly important. That, and a whole bunch of other things, more so than the incentives. But incentives are manipulatable, they're a nice marketing thing. It's a bit like FTAs, which I also have written a little bit about and thought a lot about. Very nice things to do. But FTAs by themselves don't create exports, right? Because of the margins, that matter, the fact that business has to learn how to use them, the complexity of these things, right? So we need to, so Vietnam is a good example, which has got some of these things right. Now that's a puzzle, but there are other things Vietnam has done fairly okay in. So we need to understand, right, these things relatively speaking. And the reason we must do these carefully is it's the Cambodias, the Indias, the Vietnams, even Indonesia, which now Japanese firms are very interested in. We need to look at those countries and try to understand, how they're doing and where we are. Bangladesh is another one.